So here we'll say that the default distance is d kilometer between those 2 points that Rahul covers in 6 hours. So if his initial speed was r kilometers per hour, our first relationship is d is 6r. Then we have these two cases. In the first one, he stops for 20 minutes, which is 1/3 of an hour. And if this is the time for that first leg is t, then that distance would be rt. We're still covering the total distance. And then for this remaining leg, his speed is r plus 3 kilometers per hour. Now the time for this leg would be 6 minus 1/3 minus t, because he still has to take a total of 6. So that would be 17 over 3 minus t. So this is our relationship. And then we do the same thing for the second case where he stops for 10 minutes more. This here, his speed will be 5 kilometers per hour higher, and he stops for half an hour, which means the remaining time here is 11 over 2, 5.5 hours minus t. So you'll get the same thing if you do the similar calculation. Now, this is how I originally set it up. Turns out this is requires more algebra, but that's just the reality of the exam. If you chose to set it up this way, then you don't really have the luxury to kind of change your setup again. I think it's more efficient to kind of set up the time for this leg after he stops. But that's not something you can plan for in the exam. So unfortunately, once you do it this way, I just have to kind of persevere here. So with these questions, typically that RT term will drop once you do this multiplication. That's a common setup. So 17/3 R minus RT plus 17 minus 3T. So you'll see that drops out. And I'll leave it in that form. And then I'll do the same thing for here. RT plus 11 over 2R minus RT plus 55 over 2 minus 5T. This drops out. 11 over 2R plus 55 over 2 minus 5T. Now we also have D is 6R, so I can plug that in here and then clean this one up. 6R minus 17 over 3R, which is 1/3 R, which means R is, I move that 3 here, multiply that, 51 minus 9T. That's my one equation. Again, I do that here, equate that to 6R, and then that's 5.5 R, so that becomes half an R. And then again, multiply by 2. And now I can equate these two to figure out what T is. You will get T is 4, and then if you plug it back in, let's say on the first one, R would be 55 minus 40 equal to 15, which is B. Now, all this algebra kind of seems easy here, but honestly, in the exam, if you took any different route, I mean, you will eventually get the right answer, but it can become more involved. I kind of showed you this, the easiest way, but I also, I think, spent way more time on this question in terms of manipulating. So just keep in mind that's a real possibility, and in the exam you have to make a call in terms of whether you want to persevere through this algebra to get to the answer. As I said earlier, once I chose this setup, then I don't really have the option to kind of go back and rethink of another setup. But as I said earlier, if you chose to kind of focus only on the second leg, it's easier. But there's no way to know that in the exam already. I mean, I'm doing this after having done the question, so it's not fair for me to just start with that and say, that's what you should do in the exam. But so that's just the reality of how these questions work out. Sometimes you find out the most efficient way after the fact, but that doesn't really help you in the real exam. So to summarize, the answer is B.